There's so many guys that are just afraid to ask for help. And that is the dumbest move you can make because there is nobody, and I mean nobody, that made it anywhere in life without asking for help from a mentor or something. Because this is how it works. Skills are learned, skills are taught, they're passed down from person to person, and no one knew everything on the first day.
Welcome to Conversations with Ami, where honest conversations about growth, decision, and direction happen. I'm your host, Ami Morgenstern. On this podcast, I sit down with people responsible for growth and decision making inside growing businesses to talk through where they are right now, where they're trying to go, and what might be getting in their way. The goal isn't to have perfect answers, it's to think clearly, challenge ideas, and leave with better direction. Today I'm joined by Betzalel Sheinfeld, rockstar salesman of Cherry. Let's get into it. Betzalel, why don't you tell the audience about what you do and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me. So, my name is Betzalel Sheinfeld. I am the head of sales at Cherry. I say head of sales, but it's really all encompassing. I'm a sales development, account manager, sales manager, all the above. I am sales at Cherry. Cherry is an accounts payable automation software focused on the nursing home space and hospitals, basically cutting out all of the manual steps that it would take to run accounts payable. And in the nursing home and hospital space, there's a lot of bills and a lot of invoices for a lot of different categories. So it's a bit of a detailed process that the software streamlines, makes it a lot easier. All one website, and it links into their financials. So streamlines the process, makes it a lot easier.
So, a lot of people are obviously familiar with accounts payable. But how would you describe it to someone that's totally out of the industry and doesn't understand, all the fancy languages of automation, accounts payable, or anything like that? So, what does Cherry do on a practical basis, and like how would someone that doesn't deal with it understand it?
Yeah, story of my life, basically. Whenever someone asks me what I do, I sell a software for healthcare. I just keep it as dumb as possible so I could just avoid the dumb conversation. And almost because if I want to explain to someone what I do, I almost have to go into my sales pitch, which I don't like doing. But the layman's terms, the way how I would describe it is, imagine you had 5,000 Cash Apps or 5,000 Chase Quick Pays or 5,000 Zells you have to send out every month. And each one of those have like 5 to 7 steps, and even more if you're adding someone new. So 5,000 times 7. Imagine you could do 5,000 payments in one step instead of 7 steps. That's essentially what our software is doing. We're cutting out steps in the process, which is saving time, saving money, because there's less work to do. You don't need as many people. And we're also providing it in a more secure way, meaning like the payments are getting made with fraud protection. Zelle, there is no fraud protection. Wire, there's no fraud protection. And it's also uh, decreasing errors, because whenever there's manual work involved, there's mistakes, overpayments. So our system cuts that out as well.
Got it. And why is it only focused on the healthcare space? Like, why is that industry important for this?
It's very interesting because initially the company was not niched to healthcare. We used to have like 7 or 8 products before I came. And at the time, the burnout rate, because we had 6 or 7 products, we were trying to sell all of them. We had 30 staff, and it was abysmal. It was a mess. None of the products were making money, bleeding out on payroll. And it just got to a point where, okay, we have to take a step back, but we still need to stay open. What do we do? So it happened to be one of the products was payment automation. And most of the customers that were using it were in healthcare. So the company said, okay, we're niching to healthcare and we're doing payments and doubling down on it. Backed off everything else. And then we were able to cut out. just about all the staff, maybe a fraction, not even half, not even a quarter. And we were able to raise the same amount of money, made the same amount of money in sales with a fraction of the cost.
Right. Because I guess because you
Um,
niched out.
yes, because we niched out and because we weren't selling as many products, so there wasn't as much support required. And we figured and once we're there already, we realized, okay, there's 15,000 nursing homes, 25,000, if not more, maybe 50,000 assisted living facilities, and then when you throw in retirement communities as well, there's so many facilities we could service in healthcare. We're in 1,500 right now. Hopefully by year end we'll be in 3,000. But we got time. There's so much to do here, and they
Yeah.
really need it.
Right. So, like my question wasn't really like why niche out, because niching out is typically where, how you really like can, make a product specific for someone, right? But my question is, in accounts payable, like in bills, paying bills, what makes healthcare, unique to have to build a software that's focused on that industry? Like, is there a difference between accounts payable in healthcare or let's say in, in a service provider or whatever, any other industry?
So I would say that there's similarities in different service industries, but a uniqueness to healthcare is that each nursing home is its own corporation, its own set of books. You doing books, this good and well. And the cash flow issues with healthcare, due to the fact that it could be up to 120 days until they can get paid from the insurance provider, Medicaid, Medicare, and even then could get rejected again. And just the lack of predictability month to month of what the revenue is going to be. Just having the organization that owns all these corporations and the cash flow issues and the predictability issues. And then when you throw it on top of that, all the receipts from all these companies. So you want to have a way how you could be able to track everything from the organization down.
Got it. So Cherry is really made for like an organization that like it might be a good fit for, like in a product space. You think of it as Procter and Gamble, which owns a ton of different brands under them, and they technically have Procter and Gamble playing, taking care of the back office. So they need to have all these all the like a software that brings together all the companies under it to manage it.
Yeah, most definitely. It really could help any company that has a high volume of vendor payments that they're making on a monthly basis. Um, because if you just have everything on autopay, you're not in control of your cash.
Right.
To be able to have good cash flow, you need to be in full control. Um, and
So
that's
this
something that
this bridges the gap.
really helps. Yes, if we call one of the things that we like to refer ourselves to as a centralized control. One place to manage all your bills and payments in a secure, efficient way. And you're in full control when every dollar goes out. Nothing goes out on auto pay in charity.
Right. So for you as an individual, besides for the company, because like you are a salesperson there, where do you want to see yourself go other than the company? Meaning to say, that you're obviously, right now I'm guessing, most of the income comes from doing the work for the company, but where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself going?
So it's very interesting. If you would have asked me this a few years ago, I probably would have told you something owning my own restaurant in the food industry. The fact that I'm sitting in front of you a year and a half into a sales role um, and actually seeing success is mind boggling. And now that I'm even thinking about long term that I'll be a sales coach, that's even crazier. Like I started this week, a few weeks ago, I'm actually coaching someone now. They reached out to me, asked me to coach them, and he needed something on a regular basis, more than just accountability. He needed someone to help him. So I said, "Look, I'll help you, but well, you want to pay me? Okay, if because if he needed to me, needed an hour a week." So I said, "Okay, so then, yeah, you'll have to pay me for it." Like if people, I talk to
Right.
people that call me 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. So he's like, "Okay, so how much did you want to spend?" So he said, "Let's meet once a month. I'll pay you 250." I said, "Pay me 300 and we'll meet once a week because you're not going to learn anything in a
Right.
month in a once a month week, once a month session. We have to meet every week." Because at this point, it's not even about the money.
Yeah. With coaching in general, I find that if someone doesn't pay you, you can it's just giving a friend advice. It's not coaching because there's no value that he puts to it. You're putting value to the words that you're putting out, right? So if I tell you, oh, you should do it like this or like that, it's technically I'm hearing it, okay, but I didn't pay for the advice. So I'm like, okay, whatever it is, it is what it is. Versus if he pays even a little bit, like it's not about even bringing, like you said, it's not about the money. It's not even about bringing the value of the advice. It's just making sure that he actually listens and actually takes. It's a part of accountability is to pay for it.
For
So
sure. And it's funny you say that because one of my mentors, David Wanunu, um, made himself available to me, and we've been talking on and off for a good 6 months now. The Not too long ago, we were talking, and he told me, he said, "You need a chavrusa. Sometimes just someone to bounce thoughts off of, help each other out. Sometimes you'll bounce a deal off you, he'll bounce a deal off you, you'll bounce a deal off him, and just work through it each other. Sometimes that's more powerful than a coach or a mentor."
yeah, but you have to be willing to take it. Like a lot of
Mhm.
people are pride gets in the way of like, oh, I'm doing this right the right way, and then you're paying a couple of $1,000s a month, and that pride disappears because the pride is in the amount you're paying the guy. So it really does. I see that paying a coach helps a lot because you're taking advice. A lot of people that wouldn't take advice from anyone only take advice from their coach, because you're building a business and there's a lot of pride involved in what you're building. So you're saying that you started coaching and like where do you want to see yourself moving in the future? Like where do you want to see yourself?
I mean, I love Cherry. I love where it's heading. I love the value offering that it's providing. It's a seed level startup, so we're really early on in the process. So I don't have a reason to leave Cherry anytime soon. Not even in 5 years, not even in 10 years. At least that's what I'm seeing today. The way we're going, I don't have to leave this job. This is going to be my last job. After this, I'm going to do something myself. I'm done with working for other people. I'll work for Hashem. That's it.
Yeah.
It's cut out the middleman, as they say.
Yeah, so after this you said, so let's say if the coaching takes off, that would be something that you do on your own. Um or do you want to start more of like a different kind of business, not even be a coach in the future?
Um, I had a dream once upon a time that like my favorite thing to do for business would be a Dave and Buster's on steroids.
Okay.
Talking like a 6, 7 floor fun house, every floor something else, mini golf, roller skating, arcades wall to wall. Um, and the one floor will have food, some rides outside, like all these. I had all these different ideas, a hotel nearby. Not that I thought it would make money, but to me that sounded
Yeah.
like, because I'm a gamer at heart. So if that was my job, if that was my business, it would be every day a fun day.
Yeah, that I can imagine. I mean, I would love to spend my days in Dave and Buster's. That's sound like
Yeah,
a very
yeah.
hard job. Um,
No, by the way, when I was looking for jobs and I was having a really hard time, I looked at jobs that they were offering. Oh gosh, their employees do not get paid well. They they have to work so many hours. For even like the managers, they're working so much, they're getting so little on the hour. I'm so glad I'm out of hourly work. That's one of the things I love about sales.
right. So obviously, like I know you, and I know that you have a love for sales that I've seen very few people actually have. What is? what is it about sales that you actually that attracts you to it?
Well, by nature, I like helping people, and sales, in reality, it took me a long time to realize this, but sales is all about helping people. Help become a guy that your prospect tells you something or your customer tells you something. Be a it's done guy. I saw this on an interview once. A millionaire, one of these guys that's really successful, was getting interviewed, and he asked, "How can someone become successful in sales?" And he said, "Become a get it done guy. You have to tell them once, and it's done. Help your customers, help your prospects." And this is what really attracted me to it because at first, I wanted to run away from sales because it felt like you have to shove things down people's throat. With time, I learned with training that no, figure out what problems you're solving, and then see if other people have these problems that need your solutions.
Right, and I also I had a very similar, experience when I first started doing sales. I thought I have to, you know, quote unquote sell what people think of a good salesman, right? Of someone that can come in and what these days I would call a sleazeball. Someone that can come in and be a sleaze and get the yes, get the guy to sign with you. But you know, as I was doing it longer and I become a lot more successful once I dropped that even the thought of ever doing that and just moving, because I was never going to be a sleazeball. I just can't do it. I've tried. I just can't do it. And it's it's something that like I wasn't able to pitch. I wasn't so I started, to me it was about building relationships. But the way you build relationships is by helping people. Like people don't just bring people into their circles. They want you there because you help them and you show that you bring value to them more than just whatever is the thing that I'm selling. So for me, a big part of it is making referrals. So if I know someone that's struggling with accounts payable, let's say in healthcare, and I would make the introduction to you, that guy's not going to forget me. Even though he might not even sign with you, he might not be a good fit for you, right? But he's not going to forget me because he knows I care. And that's the real thing that I learned, that for me, that's what sales is really all about, is actually helping and not necessarily selling your product. You can make referrals out to other people and it comes back to you in more than one way. It means it's not only that that guy doesn't forget, you don't forget I made the introduction. And if it's not a good intro for you, you might call me and tell me, hey, Ami, it's not a good intro to me because of X, Y, and Z. So next time I know I don't have to waste your or that person's time. So you really build relationships like this, and to me, that really changed the way that I went about sales. And now we're on a call almost every week regarding sales, and I always say over there, I don't sell. I have a service, and if I can help you, I'll gladly help you. If not, it's not a good fit. So as someone that's been in sales, though, you're a salesman, I'm a business owner. It's a bit different, right? I do sales, but I'm not a salesman. As a salesman, when someone's starting out of sales, what would be the thing that you would look for them to you would tell someone, this is what you should look for when starting out, meaning to say they're looking for a company to do sales for, or should they be looking for, a specific way of selling? Like what's the best advice you can give to someone starting out right now?
I would say if you're looking to start in sales and you want to make sales your career, pick something that's going to be around in 20 years. Don't waste your time trying to sell something that's going to be gone. Because if you want to do sales and do it right, there's a lot of investment you're going to have to put in learning the product or service that you're going to be selling. So besides the fact that you need to know that you could sell it, besides the fact you need to be able to understand it and have it literally run through your veins like your blood. Because any successful salesperson, take Pinchas Shift from Friday and any of his sales guys from Friday, they're all have Friday running through their veins. Um, I told it to my boss, and like he quotes me on it sometimes when I'm nervous or something, and I bring it up. I'm like, "What am I gonna do at this meeting? I don't know." It's like I heard the guy that does sales by Cherry says Cherry runs through his veins.
Well,
So
cherry is
I
red.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at a cherry, it's red, but when you step on it, that's funny, by the way. Our colors are blue, so go figure.
Oh, that's funny.
It's
Well,
very funny. But yeah,
isn't
but again,
blood blue and then turns to red? Whatever. We're getting
yeah,
sidetracked here.
cherry is good for the heart, also. But that would be the first thing. Look for some if you're looking to get into sales. First of all, pick something that's going to be around in 20 years, and then second of all, you also have to be ready to go through a extreme metamorphosis in your mental strength and emotional strength because the punching of the face that tends to happen in sales is par for the course. And if you're not ready for that, even if you are ready for it, it's still an adjustment to get used to. And then also how you approach people is going to change drastically, especially when you're doing cold calling and meeting people at shows. You have to be quick on your feet. You have to be willing to ask questions that, in your eyes, initially you may make people uncomfortable, challenge things that they say, which could potentially make them uncomfortable. But at the same time, you're trying to provoke them to tell you their problems. So there's a major change that has to happen. So I would say the first thing, have a lot of conversations with people in sales to get yourself ready.
Right, yeah, I think a lot of people think of sales and they think it's the fast road to making money. A lot of salespeople even think that, sales is all you need, and then they try to open a company and they realize you need a lot more than just sales, right? So I do think that sales is needed for a company. It's one of the most important things. And it's right up there together with finance and operations, right? But you need to have, in order to be good at sales, I do agree. You need to speak to people. You need to understand, is this something that I'm really ready to go through? Because in some companies, you might go work for a company where it'll take you 5 years to make, an average salary. And it could take a long time to be successful at sales. Like people only see the people that have been in sales for 20 years talking about how successful they are, but very rarely do you see the people in the first 5 to 10 years where they're struggling, you're learning, you got punched in the face. You might have a I know people that have been punched in the face and then they took a 6-month break. They couldn't do it. And they had to, not always is it even punched in the face from the customer and or the leads that you're calling. Sometimes it'll be within the company. You'll get punched in the face. As a salesman, you see a real issue in your company and you want to get it, you want to make sure that that you're actually servicing your clients the best, and that company is not a good fit for that. And you might have to switch up and learn a whole new product, and it could take a few years to really find that company that will be around in 10 years, because you can find a product like there's a million AI companies right now, right? Every AI might be around in 10 years from now. It most probably will, but not every company that does AI will. So besides for finding the product, you also have to find the actual company that'll last. And you can't really tell that on day one. You need to build trust within the company in order to understand, oh, this is a company that's going far. This is a company that's not going far. And, the difference is really, you can only know that, but, after being there for a few months to see how they react to problems. What happens, what happens when a problem comes up is one of the biggest tests a company can have. I mean, I saw last week on one of these sales chats, this guy was talking about, um, you know, a customer that got hurt by the company 5 years ago that's still really hurt, obviously, by the way he spoke. And the guy's trying to get him back, and the guy's like, I'm never doing business with you guys. After 5 years, that company must have really messed up in order to do that. And understanding, okay, how do they handle a mess up is a big part of like, will I be able to, take this company in 10 years from now? Am I still going to be able to be here and build up my revenue? Because it's two things. There are some companies that you can keep on selling, but they don't have people that last and they don't have repeat customers. And at that point, you're selling and you can never stop. You can never take a break. So,
Yeah. I mean, I want to touch on what you were saying about salespeople after 20 years versus salespeople in the first 5 to 10 years. You know, you'd be surprised how many guys for 15 years were brutal. and then all of a sudden clicked after 5 years. One of the biggest problems that I'm finding with salespeople is that they accept bad work and just go on autopilot almost and don't ask people for help. There's so many guys that are just afraid to ask for help. And that is the dumbest move you can make because there is nobody, and I mean nobody, that made it anywhere in life without asking for help from a mentor or something because this is how it works. Skills are learned, skills are taught, they're passed down from person to person, and no one knew everything on the first day. Me personally, I've gone through, sheesh, I'm working since I'm 22 and 23, and I'm turning 33 this year. And I probably had 15 jobs. So I've developed tenacity in the sense that I don't quit, I don't give up. And that's something that's very much important for sales and business. And, I feel like everything that I did until now was undergrad for the role that I'm in now, because honestly, the role that I'm in now has the highest earning potential and the greatest longevity, future opportunities, you name it. So I'm happy that I didn't find success anywhere else until now, and I've learned something from everywhere I was. But the biggest thing that I've
Yeah.
kept with me is that I never stopped asking for help. And those guys that don't work out those first 1, 5, 10 years, a lot of times they just didn't ask for help and didn't talk to people and just quit long before they should have, and they just didn't stick it out. I sucked my first year and a half in sales. I still suck sometimes now too. You never
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah, I told someone recently, I had a conversation with someone. I told him, I finally feel like I'm turning into a real salesman. Like I understand what I'm selling. I'm closing deals. And the guy tells me, you still suck. And I was like, he's right. I do still suck. Meaning say I can never I think as a salesman, you should never develop the thing. I know you call yourself a rock star salesman, but I don't think you mean it in that way where you're not gonna stop learning, right? The real thing is like if you stop learning in sales, you know, you might as well retire because it's not like as much as in 20 years from now, the world's gonna be different and you're gonna need help then as well because, you're gonna need to speak to the next generation, see how they do sales then. 20 years ago it was a normal thing to do door knocking, right? Not a lot of people do it these days. It's something that, if I go to my old ways, and in fact, a lot of people look at it as a bit creepy these days. Oh, you just show up at my door, right? It's something that like people like the world has become so public that our house is like our private, our privacy, right? And like it's very Sebastian Maniscalco had a great comedy skit where he spoke about how people used to react to when guests used to show up to the house now versus 20 years ago. You ever saw it?
The Sanka.
Yeah, like that is his mother used to have cake just for guests to come by. These days, someone rings the bell, you're like, who is here? That's so, and I think that,
Sure.
keeping up with the times in sales is also very important. So even if you understand sales to the next level, you are the top salesperson in the world, you still need to be willing to learn and adapt to how the world, reacts.
The top
So
salespeople
it's,
in the world probably have the top coaches in the world. You,
yeah,
you never
and
stop
they're
getting
always asking
coaching.
for help. Yeah.
Sean Callagy has Tony Robbins for a coach. You know, if you ever heard of Sean Callagy, the guy is blind and he could see the smallest. I don't know if he could see anything. The guy is amazing. The guy works 4 hours a week. He's doing gazillions of dollars with his law firms, and this guy has what's it called? Uh, I forget the name of the company. One of their slogans is to go from hello to yes. Uh, Unblinded.
Yeah, I never heard of it.
You have
Um,
to find him. You have to look him up. Sean Kelly from Unblinded. So let me
and
just back
I've
up to what I
seen
was saying.
Sean Callagy, like I've seen him advertised place. I don't think I've ever listened to him, but I've seen the name around. I haven't heard of Unblinded. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah,
So
Unblinded is an amazing company. They have an amazing service. They have great people there. Fernando, Craig. They really help you understand the art of building trust. and building a good relationship. I haven't used the service myself just because it's not cheap and you get what you pay for. But if I had the money, probably be using them.
Yeah. And it's so where's the like where is the step for you where you felt like, okay, now I stepped over the threshold. Like now I can actually consider myself a salesman versus everything that I've done in the past. Has it like for me, I'll tell you when it was. It was last year, January. I stepped over from trying to sell. I joined the BNI chapter. I learned how to build relationships over there. I learned how to, I would say even to this day, I don't necessarily have an elevator pitch, right? I know what I do. I understand my product well enough where I never pitch my product. I'll speak to you and I'll find, oh, you said something, and I'll start asking questions, right? And for me, that happened last year in January, where I really switched up the way I was doing sales. When was it for you? Like, how many years into sales were you when you feel like, oh, I stepped over that threshold?
I'd say in 2025 as well. There's a big healthcare conference that's coming up next week. It's called the ECAP. Um, and it's basically a few thousand operators in Trump Doral in Florida. And I was there with my bosses, and met people, just spoke to them about the company and what it does. And I got a lot of leads from that conference. So that was a moment where I got validated that people wanted to talk to me, people wanted to work with me. But there was a even further, um, it evolved from there later on in the year because I didn't stop selling then yet. I was still selling, but I was seeing success. That was the first time I saw measured success that people wanted to talk to me. But I saw Pinchas Schiff a couple days after that. And I came back to him, I'm like, I have leads worth 1,100 facilities. I only need 500 to close for my annual quota. I'm amazing. He's like, can you buy anything with leads? So no. It's like, call me when you close something. So
Yeah, and some
the
people might look at that and hear it like as as a like someone putting you down, right? Like you got the work, but I think as a salesman, you actually have to hear that and you have to really embody the thing where like, leads are good, but if you can actually have an empty pipeline all the time, that means that you've gotten rid of the people that aren't good and you close the people that are good fits. That's really where you don't want to have an over flowing pipeline where you don't even know where to start on your Monday. So like
right.
I think that
But
it's something that's
there's pipeline and then there's funnel. Pipeline is people that you suspect you could do business with.
yeah,
Funnel is where you've passed it on. Now it's like in the demo proposal stage.
yeah. So really you want to keep the funnel empty, I would say, and the pipeline full.
Yes.
But
Pipeline, you need to keep refilling. Funnel, you need to
yeah,
keep emptying.
yeah, that's a better way to put it. And like right now, is there anything that you would say is, you could be doing better at within sales that's like not, that's not really going your way? Is there anything that you're struggling with right now?
What I would say most is probably consistency and discipline. More discipline than consistency. I'll have months where I'm rocking it. I'm showing up every day, putting in the time. And then I'll have times where I can't show up in the office before 11 o'clock. But that doesn't mean I won't be making calls before I get there or after, just not putting in a full day. So that aspect I'm struggling with. And one of my goal for 2026 is to develop my discipline and not tolerate it in any part of my life. Because if you tolerate a lack of discipline at all, it infiltrates other areas. So
Yeah, I think I can really relate to that.
who
I
can't?
think that when it comes to being disciplined, like there's things that I say, oh, I'll take care of it, and then I just end up procrastinating on it. But it's also a lot of times I try to put discipline on myself and I'm not being realistic about, what what I am. So I think a big part of being disciplined is actually learning about yourself, right? Like I could say I want to be in the office every day at 6 a.m., but that's not realistic for me. And it's not going to help me develop discipline when when I'm taking on unrealistic things that I say I want to do. So actually knowing yourself is the number one thing that I'm still working on. Like I'm working on getting to know myself in a way where when I say I'm going to do something, it's because I know I will do it, and I know I'm capable of doing it. Versus like a lot of things I'm just not capable of, and I think a big part of consistency is also not giving up the days which you aren't consistent. So like so many times I have it where I have an eating disorder, and if I don't eat my 3 meals per day, right? That can mess me up for a few weeks, like till I get back on track. So I have to be extremely disciplined about eating 3 meals a day and not going to sleep without it. And on a day when I don't, I know the next day is going to be 10 times harder, but I have to knock it out. I have to eat those 3 meals. If not, I'm developing a very bad pattern. So, and it's funny because when I started working on my eating disorder is actually when I stepped over the threshold from sales. I started working on it in December of last year, and that's when I really stepped over because I got to the place where I started becoming more disciplined and I started becoming more resilient. I had to fight a lot of uncomfortable things to me, like certain foods are very scary to me, and I had to fight myself prior to the program, I wouldn't touch a yogurt. Now I have a yogurt almost every single day.
Hmm.
And it took a lot of courage for me to actually take 1 spoon of yogurt per day till I started developing, till I started being able to eat it. And I think that that's the same thing with sales. Like, in the beginning, you gotta eat, some bad yogurt till, you get comfortable enough with it, whether it be cold calling, whether it be pitching to someone, whether it be knowing what questions to ask. Like you said, you might have to ask a question that makes someone feel very uncomfortable. I mean, I know I work in the financial space. I definitely have to do that. And to me, I could just take because most people, when you speak to them about their finances, goes, "Oh yeah, I have an order," right? You have to be able to poke the bear, and you have to be able to call out their, you know, BS that they're feeding you to be able to, and to do that in the right way, you have to mess up in the beginning. You can't just start being good at it. So I think that sales is one of the most like you have to do exposure therapy on sales in order to become a good salesman.
For sure. And a big thing for me was getting over being afraid of discussing the price of my service. You know, when I did sales my first time, I was selling outsourced bookkeeping and CFO and tax planning. I was charging anywhere from 4,000 to 35,000, even though it was a one-time fee and they could use the plan every year afterwards. So it's a one-time payment for a plan that could bring you X amount of dollars every year if you follow it. Um, it was still scary for me to go through that conversation. And we were using a lot of gimmicks to try to get people to close. So now I don't feel like I need to use any gimmicks. I know my pricing is fair. I know the competition is not offering as good of a value proposition as we are. I know we're adding more features and asking customers for more feature requests. So I know automatically that, like, I don't have to be afraid anymore. I'm offering a good product. I know it's going to help them. I've seen it work. I know how it works. I know what it does. So I don't have to be afraid to say the price. If anything, I'm excited to say the price now because it's so simple. It's
Yeah,
good.
so it's very funny because like me, I have the same thing with pricing. I hate discussing pricing to this day. I don't like it because I feel like that's the number one place people have objections to my services. But at the end of the day, I've also come to realize that, hey, I'm a lot more affordable than I think I am, you know? And when you go out into my competitors, they don't come close to the level of service that we provide. Like a good example is, you know, a software that we use that a lot of different bookkeeping firms use. Basically, they sent out an email yesterday or 2 days ago about that they're switching. Basically, they opened up a new type of account, like an accountant access. They used to have admin access for free, and then they opened up an accountant access. And but they didn't force you to switch it. Then they gave us a 24-hour notice that we need to switch over all accounts from admin access to accountant access. And we got very, we were like, it wouldn't cost us an extra dollar, right? But at the end of the day, we got onto the phone with them and we told them, look, this is unexcusable. It's, in the height of tax season, you don't email us and give us a 24-hour notice. You're going to charge my clients an additional, whatever it is, even $8 a month. It doesn't make a difference. You know, you don't do that. I don't know if there was another, like when we were on the phone with them, they said that we were the only company that complained about it, right? And that's because we care. We care about our clients' money. So with that level of care and having competitive pricing, I really shouldn't be afraid, but it's still something that, puts a pit in my stomach every single time I need to discuss it. So I can completely relate with like that thing. And I think it's just exposure therapy. The more you do it, the more comfortable you are with it. And, I used to be like w- I've also found like certain bandages that I do. So I used to do the pricing together with my partner and but then I'm very ambitious and I'm like, "Ooh, let's get more accounts." So I would start negotiating with my partner on behalf of the client before I even discuss it with them, not knowing if they have an objection to the price, right? And and we stopped that. I don't do the pricing anymore. I get the information, pass it over to my partner, give him the scope that we discussed, and get a price for it. And like that, I don't know. When the guy asks me, is it that much work? I tell him, look, I trust my partner. My partner gave me a price on it. That's the price that it's going to be, and there's no negotiations anymore. So there are certain bandages you can use as well. Not every single thing do we need to, have a perfect fix for. Sometimes the fix is, a bandage is good enough. For a minor cut, a bandage is good enough, right? And I think that it's an important thing to be able to get through, and that's making me more comfortable. So now, like 6 7 months after switching over to that, I am more comfortable. Sometimes my partner will give me a price, and I'll be like, "No, I know that there should be more." And that's something that we rediscuss, and then sometimes my partner missed out a piece of the scope or he missed out. So like it's something that I've become more comfortable with over the past thing, and I see it becoming more and more, but it's something that I still struggle with is the pricing. It's a very tough thing. I think it's something that a lot of salesmen struggle with is discussing the pricing.
Yeah, I definitely see that to be the case. And, this is where the rat race of sales, start knocking down the price to get them to come in. If you understand your product and the value it brings, you don't have to be afraid about the price. And if you get someone, you could pick up right away if someone's going to nickel and dime you, you could disqualify them straight away and say, I don't want you.
Right.
And that aspect, being confident enough to disqualify, will save you a lot of time and headache and hardships because so many people that should have been disqualified get into the funnel somehow, and then you chase after them forever, realizing you should have never tried to do business with them to begin with.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is also like when it comes to the disqualification, like it's basically not being afraid of getting a no, right? Or not being afraid to say a no. You have to be able to, when you say no to something, you're saying yes to something else. I don't remember where I heard that, but that was a line I heard a long time ago. And I think that's very true in sales because at the end of the day, as a salesman, you're not going to sit around and do nothing, right? Because most salespeople are getting paid on commission. You're not meaning say even if you're getting some sort of salary, you're never comfortable enough with the salary. You need the commission in order to really become comfortable. And you need to keep on chasing something. So if you say no to someone because he's not a good fit for you, you're saying yes to chasing someone else that is a good fit. And I think that that's very important. Like for me, I had this just yesterday. Someone wanted something done quickly. It's tax season right now. I can't do it. I'm sorry. Here's another three numbers. Try them. They opened up, more recently, so they might have the time. That's what, it's not something that we can really do. I can't make a promise I'm not going to deliver on.
Yeah, I hear that 100%. When it comes to me, um, the amount of times I didn't disqualify someone that I should have and tried to, as you said, uh, try to bargain on their behalf. Why am I bargaining? For what? Did I do something wrong? I did some time at B&H customer service and there were 4 years there. They had a policy. If it was under $20, just give it to the customer. Give them whatever they want, refund it, reship it. If it's under $20, give it. But if we're giving something, fight them on it first if we did nothing wrong. If we did nothing wrong at all and they're just complaining because they want to, why? It's like if I'm giving you something, I'm giving you a gift card, I have to have done something wrong. If I did nothing wrong, I'm not giving them anything.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Like, there's the saying that the customer is always right, and I
Made
think
up
that
by
that's
customers.
yeah, I think that's like one of the worst things I've heard, because so many times the customer isn't right, and by you correcting them, it's actually the best thing that you can do. I used to work for a print shop, and at the print shop we would deliver blueprints, and there's this guy that every single morning there was an emergency to deliver blueprints. I had to run to the office, and the second I got there, print out the blueprints, run down to the site, deliver it, and you know it was very unsustainable, but my boss at that time was like, "Oh, customer service, customer service, customer service," right? But in reality, the best thing he could have done for that customer is tell him, "Hey, listen, it's every morning you're having an emergency. How about at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, your site manager's checking on site, see if they have the most recent plans, and let us know so we can get it done like a normal person. Why is every day an emergency? It's not good for you." They were getting stop work orders, like the DOT was going after them, and they were getting stop work orders left and right for not having plans on site, right? We can't guarantee you delivery every single day at 9 a.m. It doesn't make sense. So I think that, you know, customer service, in my mind, is really about correcting the customer for the best course of action. Like, they're coming to B&H to buy a camera, right? Good customer service is directing them to which camera they need to buy, not the cheapest one. Not the If they don't have a budget for something that they don't want, you want to tell them, hey, you're not in the right budget right now. You got to get the budget up, or like your expectations down. So, like, being really realistic with the customers is good customer service, I think. I think customer service, and let's say from my end, from bookkeeping, is that they're doing something that's a very gray area. It's correcting them on that and saying, hey, this is not the best course of action for you, because you're not going to get a clear picture of what your business is actually making. You're not going to get a clear picture when it comes to selling the business. You're not going to be able to sell it for as much. Whatever it is that you want to, whatever it is, depending on what's going on. But the customer's always right is something that's, is a fallacy. Let's just leave it at that.
Mhm. I'll tell you, I actually had a situation today. One of my customers was actually a back office company. Um, they were onboarding new facilities and they wanted to give someone access to some information that would be, um, they would get access to information that they have no reason to have. So I'm in a conversation with them now. It's like, look, I want your information to be secure. Giving access to this person, it's putting your information in their hands. They don't need it. So there's a better way to do this. So, like you said, it's not always about saying you're wrong. It's like, look, I'm happy to help you with this. Just we may have to do it this way, and it's in your best interest to do so.
Yeah. It's really customer service is having the customer's best interest in mind. That's the way that I see it. And, letting them get away with things like, let's say with B&H and the $20 minimum, right? Just giving out gift cards because it was $20 or less that they're returning is not necessarily the best thing for the customer. They're picking up very bad habits sometimes of, like, breaking something and just returning it. No, you broke it. You don't get to just get a gift card for that. So, like, it's very it's very important to understand that not always what the customer feels like in the moment is what they're gonna feel like in 5 years from now when they see what you've done for them. And I think that that's a very, important thing for business owners to take in, and salespeople and everyone involved in the customer relationship to understand that you need to have the best interest at heart. And if you have that, you're gonna be a good customer service company. People are gonna like your customer service, even if it gets confrontational a little bit sometimes. And when I mean confrontational, I don't mean cursing out a customer. I mean standing up to them and telling them, "Hey, I just don't think this is the best idea." Like what you had with the you can call it a data breach, right? It would be a data breach if they do it the way that they do it, and there's no reason to allow that to happen really without them because they might have not even thought about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that being said, let's say you come on 6 months from now, what would you want to say that something has changed in the way you're going about it or in Cherry or what are you looking forward to that in 6 months from now you come back on to the podcast, we can say this has changed.
Um, it's a good question. In 6 months from now, I would say I would want my discipline to, if I would have my discipline at a higher level. Like if I was saying that, like, I haven't come into the office at 11 o'clock and God knows how long, that
Right.
would be
So
great.
so
If
let's
I was down 50 pounds, that would be great.
yeah, so let's make it tangible. Like what let's like you said, right? Not coming into the office at 11 o'clock for a certain period of time, right? Obviously, I don't want to get into personal things, but there's obviously a reason that that's happening, right? Meaning to say, it doesn't have to. It's there's a reason for it. So I think let's be realistic about it, and let's say how many days of the week do you go to work? Do you go into the office?
Between 4 and 5.
So
Most weeks 4, some days, some weeks 5.
okay, so let's put it at 4 weeks, right? 4 days per week. Out of those 4 days, how many times do you come in at 11?
So I would say 2 out of 4 lately.
2 out of 4. So I would say in 6 months from now, if that number can be once in 2 weeks, that'd be a great, you know, uh, move forward. But it might be zero, like, with discipline.
Yeah.
Now, what
And it's
might,
also the days that I'm coming in at 11 are not days that I'm waking up at 5 a.m. like I
right.
have this week. If I'm waking up at 5 a.m., I'm getting all my stuff done early. You're in a different mindset if you wake up at 5.
Yeah. And do you think that that's what would actually help is waking up earlier?
For sure, because then I get tired earlier, I go to bed earlier. It's easier to wake up earlier if you go to bed earlier.
Yeah.
It's
And
just automatic. And when I wake up at 5, I wanna make use of the time. Like, it's quiet in the house, the kids aren't on my back, my wife
yeah.
isn't on my back, you know?
Yeah, so I personally love my quiet time. I wake up pretty early. I wake up usually like at 6 a.m., like naturally already. Like at this point, it's just, I open my eyes, I'm like, oh, it's 6 a.m., you know? But it's something that like I love taking my coffee and nothing. There's just nothing going on other than me and my coffee. It's it's one of the things that I really like. It's just my alone time. Um, but I sometimes when I do work in the morning, it's also something that's just like there's a certain level of focus you can have. Then you have a clear mind. You have you know, no distractions. No one's around at 5 a.m. So it's a really good thing. So like what would help you wake up at 5 a.m. on a daily basis?
I would say what it boils down to is, motivation motivation to get off my phone. I actually have a filter on my phone, but then there's other devices in the house that don't have a filter. So it's very easy to just get into that rhythm of just like, okay, the day's done. Um, got my work done, got my learning done, got my davening done. Let me just go chill on YouTube for a little bit.
Right, but
So it's never a little bit.
yeah, the question is with YouTube, right? Because I know for myself that when I finish work, I need my time on YouTube. Like I need to have that, and it's not necessarily YouTube. It's more like I need that
A
time
healthy release.
when, yeah, I need that time when between work and between whatever it is, the next thing that I'm gonna be doing, eating supper with my wife, speaking to my wife, or whatever it is. I need that time between. So
I do too, but
yeah,
it's also I think it's finding a healthy outlet. I think that's the secret sauce because we need breaks, but breaks could be taking you minus 100 or take you from 100 to 50. So
right.
it's about finding the healthy breaks that keep you in a productive, healthy mindset where it's not taking away from your core values and principles as much as some other things you can be doing, which would.
Right. So obviously I think that you would need that outlet between work and whatever it is. You don't want to
Mhm.
bottle things up. What do you think is a healthy way to go about it? Like would you say, let's say like if you take an hour, right, and you set a timer on your phone, you're like, okay, now I'm gonna be on YouTube for max an hour. Once the timer rings, we shut it down. Like would that even work? For me, I know it wouldn't really work. I would just
For
snooze that
me,
timer.
exactly. For me, I kind of feel like not for everybody, but for me, YouTube is a no-go zone because it's a gateway for other things, and it's just once YouTube isn't doing it for you, you start looking elsewhere. And me personally, I just find it to be a not healthy place. You
Right.
know, healthy places. Listening to music is good. I listen to podcasts. I'll talk to people, go for a walk. Things
Yeah.
like this, I think are much more helpful. I was a gamer for a long time. I gave my brother my PlayStation, a little over a year ago. I still miss it to some extent, but my wife doesn't mind it one bit because
My wife
it
would
got
love
to a
for me to
point
give
where
away my Xbox.
I'm sure, and part of me wants it back, but the other part of me is like, that's not a healthy out it could be in a controlled environment, okay. It's just as it stands right now, it's just it's not helping me achieve any of my goals that I wanna accomplish,
Right.
and I wanna be able to read better, read books and not and have the patience to sit and read for 20 minutes. I can barely do it for 10 right now.
Yeah,
So
so
and I have a few books I wanna read. So
right, but
these are the outlets I'm trying to get to.
you said that you listen to podcasts, you could listen to audiobooks. Like you
I could
can
listen to audiobooks.
yeah,
I listened to Rich Dad Poor Dad.
okay, and you find it easier
That
than
was a great
reading
book for
or
me. Yes, but at the same time, easier doesn't mean that it's as good because when you read
right.
a book, you can't compare it to when you listen to it.
No, I agree with that, but what I would say is a lot of times take we take a all or nothing approach, like a black and white approach of like, oh, it's either I'm reading or I'm not, right? And let's say the audiobook only has 60% effective rate as versus a book 100, 60% effective rate is better than zero. That's what I would say.
Right, but then if you take the 10x theory from Grant Cardone, you set your goals low, you don't end up achieving them. Set your goals high, so that way
So
you hit better than you would have hit. So if I set the goal to reading,
I can
eventually
argue with
reading
that.
might get too hard. I'm sure
I'll
you
argue with
can.
that because for me personally, the 10x goals doesn't work. I think it creates bad habits. Like if you set a goal, you should want to reach that goal. And if you're okay not reaching the goal, right, then that's creating a habit where a goal doesn't really meaning say if I say I want to make $1 million this year, right, and I'm okay that I only made 500,000, yeah, I'm creating a bad habit where my words don't mean anything. When I
Mhm,
say I'm going to make $1 million and I don't reach that $1 million, it should bug me to no end. I shouldn't be happy that I made 500. And that's the way that I operate. So I know that for me,
mhm.
setting unrealistic goals in order to get half of it isn't a healthy way for myself. Means I understand that people operate differently. There are many people that it won't bother them anything. To me, I feel like my words mean something. And when I tell someone I'm going to do this, I wanna do it. So
So I hear you there, but I'll challenge that as well because again, at the same time, wanting to make $1 million and only ended up making 500,000, the end result is output. That's not input. If you want to make a million, put in the input that you need to make a million. Whatever comes out after that, that's not on you.
That's sort of what I'm saying, by the way, because what I'm saying is when you set a goal that's ridiculous, right? In order to reach only a percentage of it, you're not going to do whatever it is to reach that
Right.
goal. Versus when you make a goal that your habit is, I reach my goals, right? That
So,
doesn't mean that
mhm.
100% of the goals you reach, but when I set a goal, my plan is to actually reach that goal, not to get to a point where, oh, if I only reach 80%, I'll also be happy. No, I'm not gonna be happy unless I reach the goal. So like the the real it's the structure in my mind that like for me when I say when I'm working on my it really started really when I started working on my eating disorder, I became that way. I said I'm going to try yogurt every day. I tried yogurt every single day that week, right? I said I'm gonna try something else, whether it was a certain kind of burger or a certain vegetable. Every day of that week, I did it. And I reach my goals. And I developed a habit where when I say I'm reaching a certain goal, I'm reaching that goal. And
Right.
I think that that's a very, powerful thing. Over the Grant Cardone 10x theory of like, you set ridiculous goals so you might reach half of it. And it's like, no, set realistic goals so you actually achieve them. So when you say something, it means something. And that's the way that I feel. But personally,
I
I
hear
gotta
that.
admit, I'm pretty biased. I'm not a fan of Grant Cardone at all. So
Mm.
it's
So
coming from, yeah, it's coming. I don't know if you can tell, but
I could tell right away. I'm like,
yeah,
there's
but
some angst behind these words.
yeah, no, I'm not a fan of his because of this, because he has some ridiculous things that he says that comes from that attitude of like words don't really mean what I say. It's just about that. It's just meaning to say if a person like me sets a goal, I'm gonna do everything that I can to reach it, right? But that's because the words mean something to me. Because I said I want to do this. But a guy like that's not disciplined with his words, that's not disciplined with his with the goals he sets, right? Isn't necessarily going to change himself to reach those goals because it doesn't mean anything. So that's why I think that the 10x theory is really only works for a person that would never set a 10x goal. You understand what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, but I think it also goals could be a super downer in a sense because a lot of people don't hit their goals, and it's not because they didn't pick attainable goals. It's just they didn't do what needs to be done to get there. So, and they hit lower, and then they beat themselves up about not hitting their goals. And sometimes goals are like not eating yogurt every day, for example. That's something that's fully on you, the input and the output of said
Right.
goal. The whole thing, you're in full control. So versus earnings, there's certain aspects of there that you can't control that.
I agree.
Setting an earning goal potential, for salespeople, sometimes the on target earnings that a company will offer makes it very enticing of why they come, and also is a good motivator. But again, at the same time, the input required is a lot and not always are we going to hit it all. There's appointments, there's sick, there's Yom and Tovim, there's all these different things that come in that can interrupt. But again, that's output that you're not in control of that.
Right.
So I think there's aspects of it that make sense in the sense that most people aren't hitting their goals. So setting attainable goals is more like setting it low enough that they know they can hit it versus setting it higher so that they go out of their comfort zone.
Yeah. And
So
I think that it is important to go out of your comfort zone. And I think that that's really the point that he was trying to make. I just don't necessarily agree that it should have been based off of goals because I think that reaching goals is a habit. There are people that habitually will reach their goals. And that means that it's not, even though not everything is in their control, right? But if they set a goal there's certain things that are in their control, and they're going to do everything that's in their control to actually reach it. Versus a lot of people that don't reach their goals. Most people are mediocre. It's just the way it is. The Jim Jeffries, another comedian. I don't know. Another thing, I love comedy, right? But Jim Jeffries had a whole joke about how, most people, when you go on ratings of looks, are between 4, 5, and 6, right? Sevens, eight, nines, and tens are like, tens are super rare, and a 10 is just as rare as a one. It's just on the other side of the scale. So, like, what he was saying over there is that most people are average. That most people are just average people. So when you go to most people, yeah, most people can't accomplish what, certain people could accomplish. And that, it's not that they can't, it's just that they won't. It's really most people could accomplish a lot more than they are accomplishing. It's just that, you know, they're not working on themselves. They're not working on their discipline. They're not working on sometimes their words don't mean things. I know someone that, he promised me he'd show up to a meeting, and every single time he had to reschedule, right? And he told me, I'm so sorry, whatever. I told him, look, you know what your problem is? The problem isn't that you're not valuing my time. It's just a symptom. The real problem is you don't value your own. You don't value your time. And that's why you're very okay just, taking an hour of my time and saying I'll book it and I won't do it. I think that that's, something that most people need to understand, is that a lot of the problems that you're having is because of the way that you look at yourself, because of the things that you believe. And you're limiting yourself, and it's not really outside forces. Like, a lot of things are in your control and you're not doing it. There's a lot of things that aren't in our control, but focusing on that is never helpful.
For sure. My boss told me this a while back. We were talking about this, and he said, everybody wants to be skinnier, richer, and better looking. Everybody. So I'm like, yeah, for sure. He's like, no, you missed what I said. I said everyone. I said, yeah, who doesn't? He's like, no, no, no. The skinny people want to be skinnier. The rich people want to be richer. And the good looking people want to be even more good looking. Just a lot of, and whoever isn't wants it, but is not willing to pay the currency required to get that. The fat guy doesn't want to give up his chocolate chip cookies. The ugly person doesn't want to take the time to brush their hair and put on makeup or not look like a schlump. And the poor guy doesn't want to work 9 to 5. Wants to work 4 to 5.
Yeah, and I think that that's very true, and that's sort of like, most people are good people, but they're not willing to do what it takes. And you know like, if you look at your boss, I'm sure he sacrificed a lot to build the company, right? And not a lot of people are actually willing to do that. Not a lot of people are willing to put themselves into situations that is scary. It's like, on one of the episodes that I did, this guy was saying that, he can't take a loss. And I misunderstood exactly what he said. He meant he can't afford, like, to lose money. But to me, saying that is like, okay, then you already lost. If you can't take a loss, right? You're in a place where you can't afford a loss, then you lost. You're not. You need to be able to take the risks. You need to be able to, put yourself out there and go out of your comfort zone, and not. I'm not. I wasn't comfortable always with, my business, or whatever it is. Even now, putting out the podcast sometimes feels very uncomfortable for me. I'm not good at this yet, but it's the only way to improve, I know, is by actually doing it, right?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, for myself, I know for myself that I learn more from my failures than I do my successes.
yeah,
I've seen big failures that hurt like hell when they happened, and I used to be someone that if there was an excuse to be given, I was given it. If there was anything I could blame something on besides myself, I'd do it. And there was always an excuse, there's always a reason. It's not my fault. It's this one. It's not my fault. It's that. It's not my fault. It's that. And I remember once my wife brought it up to me, and she's like, "Does it make you feel good now that like you were able to blame it on someone else besides yourself?" And that triggered me, and it was what I needed to hear at that time. And I was like, okay, it's okay to say it's my fault and accept it. Okay, what am I going to do about it now to make sure it's not my fault or anyone's fault next time, and it's just doesn't happen?
Yeah. So it's very funny because I work a little bit in the opposite way where I'm always trying to blame myself, which is also not healthy, right? That's not a realistic look
Yeah,
either. Like, and oh, I want to take responsibility for that. No, not always am I the one that messes things up, and getting into a place where I'm facing reality is very tough sometimes because you want to be able to. You don't want to become an extremist that's just blaming yourself, or for me, blame everything on everyone else. But at the same time, you have to find that in between, which is very hard to toe that line. So it's something that I am currently working on is, not taking so much like I forgot the wording for it, but like if something isn't going to get done, I'll just jump in and take care of it. Right. So I'm an overworker. And then, other people that I interact with,
micromanaging.
it's it's not micromanaging. I'm terrible at micromanaging. I like if I give you a task, I expect you to get it done, but then, comes an hour before the deadline and it's not done. I'll be like, "Hey, what happened?" You'll be like, "Oh, I didn't get it done." I'll be like, "Okay, it's done." 5 minutes later, I'll just send you a message saying it's done. And to me, I'll think that you'll actually learn from it, right? But because I would feel very guilty if someone takes work away from me. But at the end of the day, what I was doing is I was teaching people that, oh, if you don't do it, then I'll do it. Right.
You're
And that's,
enabling them.
yeah, I was enabling them. So it's something that I'm actively learning how to do in all different parts of my life is like how to not overwork. Like you have your responsibility, other people have their responsibility. You have to keep them accountable, but they have to keep you accountable. And if you're the only one bringing accountability into a relationship, it's not good. If you're the one that isn't bringing any accountability into a relationship, it's not good. You need it to be a shared mutual thing, not necessarily 50-50, but you need it to be a shared and mutual thing. So that being said, is there like a quote or something that you like that you really relate to that you'd like to share?
When my alarm goes off in the morning, it reads aloud, "Just show up. Perfection will come."
Oh,
I
okay.
think people are chasing perfection, and it's the devil's in the details, but chasing perfection, but not realizing that it just happens. It's not something you can do, but one thing you can do is show up every day.
Yeah.
ABSU, always be showing up. I hate ABC, always be closing. That's the
I
stupidest thing
like the
ever. If you're
ABC
closing
always be
everybody,
curious.
yes, that ABC, always be curious, but ABSU, always be showing up because
Yeah.
that's something fully within your control. That's your input.
Right.
So per, just show up. Perfection will come. That's how I
Yeah,
start my
I
day.
think that's a great line. I think that, I'm a Nets fan and the Nets right now, I don't know if you know basketball or not, but the Nets right now are not doing well. And, what part of the thing that the coach over there talks about a lot is developing good habits and developing, their very young team and being able to show up and do your work, whether you win or lose, right? He's like you could lose and then you could be a loser. And those are two different things. And it's okay to lose, but it's not okay to be a loser. And I really love that line. I think it, goes right in there with like always showing up, perfection will come. It's a very it's very true, and I think that's one of I think the things that I do a lot is I stopped focusing on perfection over the last few years, and I started focusing a lot more about actions. Don't do it perfectly, like I have to work out every day. I don't go to a gym, and I pushed off working out for a year because oh, the gym, I have to find the gym, I have to find the gym. Then I'm like, you don't have to find the gym. You just have to order a mat and do some push ups at home, do some sit ups, do what you could do at home. And not only that, because I shortened the whole thing from an hour long, between 20 minutes to the gym, 20 minutes back, plus a half hour at the gym, what ended up happening is it became very easy for me to be disciplined about it and say, hey, you need to work out today, you
Hmm.
know? And it really changed the way. So I think that showing up in a non perfect way, and that's sort of also what I was talking about the audiobooks versus reading, is like, I think that to me, showing up is the main thing, is the main course. Then, do you have a fancy design or do you just have rice and beans on the side? But the main thing is the piece of meat over there, the action. And
Right.
I think that that's very true. So, how can people find you and keep up with what you're doing? You're obviously going on an amazing. I've personally been keeping up over the last few months, and I love seeing, your growth. I love seeing how, personally, from when I got to know you till now, I think you've become a lot more confident in sales in general. Mean say in the product you were selling, you were confident already when I met you. But I think in sales and being able to help, other salespeople, you've personally helped me. Like I think that that was something that I really see, and I keep on seeing how you're growing on it. So how can people find you and follow along on your journey?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find. I comment more than I post, but I post here and there helpful tips on sales on LinkedIn, or at least tips that help me. I don't profess to be a sales guru. I just know I did sales really bad for a long time, and finally figure out how to do things better than I used to. So I try to drop help wherever I can. I'm on different sales groups on WhatsApp, and if you ever need any help, you can always slide into my DMs on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and if you're in healthcare, you don't have to worry, he'll slide into your DMs. So
Yes, yes, yes. No, actually, no, I don't. I don't really go into the DMs unless I'm gonna meet them at a conference. I try not to pitch in the LinkedIn DMs. I
yeah,
don't
no,
feel
I was
like it
I was
works.
kidding. I was kidding, but yeah. All right, Vital, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you being here, and see you in 6 months, hopefully, when you're more disciplined. So we'll take it from there.
Sounds good.
Thank you for listening to Conversations with Ami. If this conversation was helpful, take a moment to like, subscribe, or follow the show. It helps more people find it. New episodes drop on the 1st and 15th of each month. You'll find the links in the description to support today's guests and learn more about their work. Until next time.